the season is not even here. I mean, we're close, right? We're not even at the training camp for college football, and Jimbo Fisher is insufferable. I don't even know how I'm going to put it as he whines and complains more once we get into the season, because right now, out of season, he's insufferable. His spinning and whining is already too much to take. I think I know why, to be honest. I know why, and I'll make an argument why he's being so defensive already. The season hasn't even started, and he is really working very hard to be defensive. He is trying the best that he can to make a case for himself. And I tell you why, and I got this figured out, and I don't know that I do blame him because I find him insufferable. He's boxed in. Even in doing the right thing, he's boxed in. He's boxed in publicly. And it's pretty interesting because you can already see the pressure, even though he says there's no pressure. And I know he's making, $90 million, so how much pressure can there be? But you can already see the cracks in how he's trying to spin things publicly. You're already getting it. If you don't get it already, I'm going to make an argument what to look for and why he's doing this already. The reason is he's defensive already. Even when asked, is he brought in Bobby Petrino. Now, Bobby Petrino has been a coach that's been around a long, long time. He's a coach that has bounced from college to the NFL. He is a guy that bounced back from the NFL to college. He is a guy that is a very, very good coach. He knows the game at every level. He also has plenty of skeletons and issues. Lots of issues. But he's a guy that everyone knows at each level of football, college and the NFL. But he's a guy that everyone knows is a brilliant offensive coach, and he is. So Jimbo Fisher does that. And this is why, in a weird way, it is pretty fascinating to watch this. In a weird way, he's boxed in. And I don't mean boxed in by how much better the Aggies get. I don't mean boxed in by how much they win or they lose. I mean boxed in publicly for his own ego, for the way things look on him. That's how he's boxed in. So here's why I argue this. So Bobby Petrino's a very good coach. I mean, you can spend all day long, you want to talk about his issues and places that he's left and girlfriends and, scandals and all that stuff. All that stuff's true. But what you cannot hide is the fact that you give the guy a headset and a play sheet, and he's really good at what he does. Really good. And I'll make an argument that he is on a rehab assignment right now at A&M, and if things go well, he's not going to be at A&M very long. So everyone knows he's a brilliant offensive coach. So if things go well, which isn't saying a great deal given the fact that A&M won two conference games. But if things go well, and all of a sudden A&M is better offensively, and I think they will be. You can't get much worse. But let's assume their offense gets better. The credit goes to Bobby Petrino. People are already starting to talk about it. People are asking Jimbo Fisher about it. It's not like you brought in some nondescript play caller that people have never heard of. You brought in a guy who's been a head coach. You brought in a guy that anyone that knows anything about football, anyone that has followed Lamar Jackson's career knows. Bobby Petrino is really, really good at what he does. If you could ask every head coach in college football, they can go find one play caller. Bobby Petrino's name probably comes up more than anyone else. So, if things go well offensively, guess who gets the credit? Guess who the media is going to point it out to Jimbo Fisher. Wow, you guys are better. You brought him in, you're better all of a sudden. If things go badly, this is how he's boxed in. And it's really, I think, kind of driving him crazy already. If things go badly, it's dumped on Jimbo Fisher. He can save his own ass, but he won't. He can save his own ass. Bobby Petrino can save Jimbo Fisher's public ass, because he's not his ass as in his job, because they got to buy him out for $70 million plus. So that part of his ass is not online. The part of his ass that can be saved is the public perception of Jimbo Fisher, and how that public ass is going to be saved is that Bobby Petrino does a good job with their offense. And if people start pointing out how much better their offense is, Bobby Petrino gets the credit. If things don't go well, and I don't know how you get any worse than where A&M was a year ago. 2-6, man. 2-6. An awful offense led by a guy, Jimbo Fisher, who's supposed to be an offensive guy. They were awful on offense, and it's all on him. So just assuming they get any better, it's going to look like the hiring of Bobby Petrino did that. If things don't get better and the pressure is turned up, it's not going to be Bobby Petrino's fault. It's going to be Jimbo Fisher's fault. Bobby Petrino is doing this rehab tour, and I don't mean that in a literal sense, although I guess it's possible. But this is a great job for Bobby Petrino to say, everyone to take a look, the next mid-level program that's out there fishing around for the next hot coach. Bobby Petrino goes to A&M. All of a sudden, A&M gets much better on offense. Guess who gets another head coaching job? Bobby Petrino. Oh, he's not going to get a blue blood program, but he's going to get something because it's going to look like, wow, he went there and they were at a dumpster fire on offense, and Bobby Petrino fixed it, so he's going to get hired elsewhere. If A&M gets better on offense, he's marketable again. He is going to get hired again, and he's going to get hired right away. But I don't fault Jimbo Fisher for bringing him in because that place had to be fixed. They're so bad on offense, they had to get fixed. And if you need to get fixed and you're okay with dealing with the drama and all the attention, Jimbo Fisher's not, but he had no choice, then you hire Bobby Petrino. It's the right thing to do. It's just publicly for Jimbo Fisher, that's how he boxed himself in. It sounds like the attention going to Bobby Petrino, who's good at what he does, a better head coach in many ways, I would argue, than Jimbo Fisher. Now, I know you can't dismiss the baggage, but in many ways, probably a better head coach than Jimbo Fisher. But I think, and you can tell by that the lack of credit is already bothering Jimbo Fisher. We're not even to August, and I think he's already getting uptight and defensive about the whole thing. You can tell it's bothering him. He couldn't even get himself to admit that Bobby Petrino is going to be calling the plays. You think Bobby Petrino took that job to not call the plays? Really? What's he doing? Playing on his phone? So Jimbo Fisher couldn't get himself to even admit that he hired a good play caller to call the plays, because that would be telling everyone, if this offense gets better, it's that dude upstairs, not me. Don't think for a second Bobby Petrino doesn't call plays. Here's what's reported by Yahoo Sports. Texas A&M's Jimbo Fisher says there's no added pressure for the Aggies after a disappointing season. That is a laughable lie. And if you really believe that, I know you got $75 million coming your way, so that's not real pressure. He's set for life. His grandkids are set for life. But to say there's no added pressure when you've won 2 league games is, as usual for Jimbo Fisher, just a ridiculous comment. The guy is just a bumbling fool publicly. He really is. He just says dumb stuff all the time. So he says it's not added pressure. Remember, they went 5-7. They were 2-6 in the SEC. By the way, they started the year as a top 10 team. And he's got a fully guaranteed 10-year, $95 million contract. Okay? You got to remember this about the SEC and how, people are going to dismiss some of the losses because, well, it's the SEC. That's not accurate. Look, the top of the SEC is the best there is. But once you get out of the top of the SEC, and once you get out of Alabama, you get out of the space of Georgia, get out of the space of LSU. Once you get to the mid-level and down of the SEC, it's not a very good league. It's no different than any other league. To finish mid-level or lower, you're playing there with the Kentuckys and Missouris of the world. They're not any good. Don't act as if a football power, a financial power like A&M, has any excuse to say, well, we're in the SEC, so it's such a tough league. We're 12th. That's ridiculous. 12th in the SEC is just as bad as 12th in the Big 12. Yeah. They got the top 3, and they're outstanding, and they dominate the game. But after that, the league's not that great. It's not a pass. It's a ridiculous and pathetic record. So hiding behind we're in the SEC, do not let him get away with that. That's not true. It's not true at all. Winning the SEC, finishing second or third, you'd say, well, okay, I mean, Georgia's the best there is. Okay, fair enough. But mid-level and down, that's not Georgia. All right, so Jimbo Fisher says, we live under pressure every day. We put more pressure on ourselves than anybody out there ever puts on us. So there's no added pressure because what good does that do? Okay, whatever, man. What you've got to do is get solutions. Yeah, that's why I hired Bobby Petrino. That's what everyone's pointing out to you, doofus. Right. You got to go get somebody to bail your offense out. And he doesn't like to be reminded of that. But it's going to work. Here's why all the criticism should be directed at him. He called the plays. Okay, remember this. He called the plays. It's his offense. He's the offensive guy. He's an offensive guy that had to be bailed out offensively by another offensive guy. A&M averaged 22.8 points per game last year. You know what that is in the SEC? That's 13 out of 14. 13 out of 14 for the offensive coach. 13 consecutive games versus FBS competition, A&M did not have 30 points or more. That's on him, and he knows it. That's on him. And when it changes, what's awkward is when it changes is because of Bobby Petrino. So does that mean Petrino, according to Yahoo Sports, will have full control of the Aggies offense this fall, including calling plays? Fisher wouldn't say. Why wouldn't he say? That, by the way, between the two of them, I suspect before the year is over, if things start to go well, I'm going to guess that Bobby Petrino is going to be slightly bothered that he doesn't get public credit for it. Just a prediction. If things don't go well, he's going to want to hide and let Jimbo Fisher take it. But if things do improve behind the scenes, if Jimbo Fisher, and he won't, Jimbo Fisher will act as if he reinvented the offense, when we all now know it's not going to be true. But when the offense gets better for A&M and it's hard to get any worse, is he going to give him credit? Can he give him credit? Bobby Petrino is going to want it because, remember, Bobby Petrino publicly is looking for the next gig already. Fisher wouldn't say, continuing his trend of directing questions related to the offense throughout the offseason. I'm not going to get into what we're doing, he says, how we're doing it. Again, I'm not trying to avoid anything. I just don't want to create advantages and narratives. Okay? He never makes any sense, ever. He makes Mike McCarthy sound like a genius. I don't know what he's trying to say, except to deflect the fact that he doesn't right now want to give Bobby Petrino credit for taking over offense that he was supposed to be running, and he did a pretty lousy job. And no, he's not going to get fired. No, he's going to have to sit there and take it. He's not going to get fired because there's not a $75 million payout laying around. That's why he's going to be retained for another year. But if things change, he's not going to like how it looks publicly because he wants the credit and he's not going to be able to get the credit. But if things don't go well, he'll get the blame.